Hello there, my name is Kirk and I'm a marketer and filmmaker based in Melbourne, Australia, and the first ever camera I bought was the Canon 650D. That was also known as the Rebel T4i, I think, but that was all the way back in 2011. Since then, the only camera I ever bought was the Blackmagic 6K Pro, which is the one I'm filming on right now, and that was around about a year or so ago. Now, I spent ages, I'm telling you ages, between around about 18 to almost 24 months trying to find a camera, and when this one came out, it took me a whole 8 months or so after it was released to purchase it. And that's mainly because whenever I'm looking to buy new gear, it takes me forever to decide what to get. Whether it's comparing against stuff or looking at other gear that's out there, it always takes me a while. That was up until I was introduced to this little guy. This is the Fujifilm X100V and it is a photography camera. It does video as well and I'm absolutely loving it. And most importantly, it is reigniting my passion for photography and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So starting off with why I actually purchased this camera. The Canon 650D, which is the one I bought all those years ago, was mainly for passion-based stuff, but I also used it for a lot of client-based work as well too. Ever since then, I've been getting into a lot of other things and a lot of my photography-based passions have dwindled away because whenever I was traveling or going on long expeditions, I guess, I always was leaving that camera at home. Ever since smartphones have gotten really good at taking photos, there's something about having to change lenses and everything and putting it in a bag and taking it everywhere that just wasn't my style. And I wanted something small, compact, lightweight, but also really easy and took great photos as well. I learned about this camera around about 2 weeks ago after watching a video from Andrew Ethan Zeng on his travel video, and within 2 days I snapped it up straight away and I haven't been regretting it since. There's something about the small compact nature of this camera, the film emulation modes, the fact that it has a fixed prime lens is all just chef's kiss, I guess people call it. It ticks all the boxes and something that if you told me 3 weeks ago that I was going to buy, I would have been like, Kirk, that's absolutely crazy, but honestly, it's something that I've been loving ever since. So why do I actually love this camera? Well, starting off with the actual design itself. It reminds me of those old school Leica cameras and the retro style cameras as well too. Everything from this little custom red, I think, knob or something that you put on top of it to the fixed prime 23mm lens. And because this is an APS-C crop sensor, it scales up to what a 35mm camera or a 35mm full frame camera would be essentially as well. Now, a lot of people might think that the fixed nature or the prime lens of this would be, because it's actually built into the camera itself, would be a drawback, but it really enables me to slow down, take my time, and really focus on composing and taking the shot, which is really what photography is all about. Now, I'm going to plan on using this camera for passion stuff and also for client-based work. Scrolling on the screen now is a few photos I took around Melbourne and stuff, which is like the local city, and a few photos I've taken for different clients too in the architecture type space. And this film camera or this film emulation camera does it all. That word film emulation, or that phrase film emulation, is one of the biggest reasons I picked up this camera. In a few videos I watched, I learned that a lot of people just like shooting in JPEG mode. And now that sounds absolutely crazy because with Lightroom and all these big camera developments these days and how easy it is to edit photos on your phone, people love shooting in RAW. Now I've gotten pretty good, or I guess average at shooting at RAW now and editing in Lightroom. I love to do it, but there's something about just shooting and firing away and not touching the photo afterwards and having that reward of seeing the photo afterwards is just absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at the camera itself, the physical design is beautiful. Again, it reminds me of those old Leica cameras and also some of the retro feel as well too. It comes in silver and black, and I got the black version because everything I get is space gray and it really matches in as well. But the small compact nature, the dials up on the top here, which you can change for exposure compensation, ISO and shutter speed, as well as the mappable dials on the front and back of the camera, really make this such a compact package and makes it super easy to change settings. Now, one of the biggest things that I love about that camera, as I mentioned before, are those film emulation modes. You have a lot of different options to choose from within the camera, and I immediately started shooting in RAW mode, but as I said, I flipped over to JPEG only because those film emulation modes really bring a kind of nice, neat and warm feel to the camera. That's something that I think that those DSLRs can't quite get straight out of the camera. Sure, there's a lot of film emulation stuff and editing that you can do in Lightroom, but there's something quite special about just being able to take the photo, look at it inside the screen and just move on. It reminds me of having those old disposable disposable cameras that you would get back in the day, or even shooting on those old film cameras as well too, which I did a long time ago, and purely for fun. And that's what really brings the joy out of this camera as well. I'll go into a deep dive onto all the settings and everything that I do in a later video, but essentially this is why it's brought my love back into photography. Now, another thing that I really like is the optical viewfinder. Up the top here, I don't know if you can really see, but you can look straight through it. It is purely just glass like those old film cameras or even DSLR cameras as well. But if you don't like that, and that's totally okay, you can just switch this little dial on the front here and an OLED viewfinder pops up straight away, and that enables you to see what essentially the sensor is seeing, including the film emulation mode as well too. And that's really great if you want to be able to, on the fly, adjust and see what is actually happening inside the camera and what the photo is going to look like. But if you want that old film style look and just looking through that camera with a little bit of a heads up display on there, that is an option as well too. Another huge thing that I love about this camera and what makes it so easy to take photos is this flip out screen. Now I think the X100F and maybe the X100T, I might get that wrong, but those are the previous versions of this camera, but they didn't have the flip out screen. And the benefit of that flip out screen obviously is you can look down and take photos and stuff, but the biggest thing is that when you are doing street photography and things like that, people aren't going to be too bothered. It's always kind of quite confronting when someone's coming around and taking photos like that, but having that kind of subtle feel when you're being able to take a photo from the hip or the chest and not having to bother people is really awesome. And whenever I want a shot, I can quickly pop it down, take a snap, and head off and go as well too. So now I really want to get into why I absolutely love this camera, and mainly why it's really igniting my passion for photography. Now I could have gone out there, and you can too, go out and purchase like the Canon RP or a Sony camera or any of the other DSLRs out there, and that can do a great job at taking photos, but I don't think there's something out there quite like this that can really reignite my passion for photography. The small, nimble nature of it, the fact that it reminds me of old school film cameras, the film emulation modes, and mainly the photos it takes are absolutely gorgeous. Just the grain that you can put in there, the customizability into Fujifilm's film emulation nodes. Obviously, Fujifilm have been making cameras for a long time, and they put a lot of work into their color science and color reproduction into this camera, and it makes it great to essentially snap and forget, or set and forget as people call it. And I can't wait to be able to take this everywhere, because in the end I can take it everywhere. It's small and it fits in my bag. Now, one of the drawbacks that comes with this is that it is a fixed lens, but there are adapters out there that you can get, but that's not the point. The point is being able to slow down, take photos with this camera, and enjoy the process, and that is what I'm loving so far. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to get into more of a detailed review later on. I've had this camera for around about a week or so, and I can't wait to share more of my thoughts later on. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you have any questions for the bigger review, please do let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.